Hi, everyone, and welcome to Telecom Unplugged, a LinkedIn Live mini-series exploring the future of autonomous networks and what it really takes to get there. Through real insights from industry leaders, we will explore the key challenges and opportunities on the road to autonomy. I'm Alexa Fullerton, and in this final episode, I am joined by Cody Bowman, VP of Solution Consulting here at Nokia, to explore a bold vision of what's next, where networks don't just follow rules, but understand your intent. Cody, let's go ahead and set the stage for our listeners here. We've been hearing about automation in telecom for years, but what changes when we shift from automation to intent-based networking?
Hi, Alexa. Thanks for having me here. There's a number of things that are behind the intent-driven automation. It represents a substantial improvement in how CSPs are managing their network and will manage it in the future. But it's a fundamental transformation from network monitoring to service monitoring that's really going on. Where network monitoring is the traditional way of looking at KPIs and the configuration of the network and making sure SLAs are being met at a network performance level. So service monitoring is really more about monitoring the customer user experience and what they're experiencing and to ensure that it's correct. So the network becomes driven by outcomes and not just following workflows. So it's about making the network aware of the user or the device or even other networks and how those networks and devices intend to use the communications network of a CSP. So achieving this requires a programmable infrastructure and a network that can continuously learn. So it's the perfect habitat for AI and machine learning. So the result is an overall simplification of systems and processes that dramatically reduce the cost and improve network operations for the operators.
Okay, so we're basically teaching networks to think in objectives then, not instructions.
Absolutely right, Alexa.
Okay, great. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and get into the word that's really caught everyone's attention, which is conversational automation. What does that really mean when you think about it in a telecom context?
Well, today's communications networks are really designed for specific operational use cases. They're effectively hard coded to behave and respond according to predefined configurations and workflows. In contrast to that, the conversational networking is really essentially a framework and a tool set. It's designed to support any particular use case. And it's the very concept of programmability because it effectively turns the network into a compute store mechanism. So it's usable in a programmable fashion. And what this does is it creates two distinctly different and new operational models. So there's the human to network interaction that can occur in a more natural, context aware, and intelligent fashion. So, for example, you could use natural language to tell the network, hey, optimize latency for a specific company in this area. And the network understands the intent. It runs a simulation in a digital twin and it replies, okay, I see three routing changes that are needed. I estimate the improvement to be roughly 42%. Should I apply this? And then the human can make the choice to do that. So there's the human network interaction part. Then there's the network to network interaction part that is more like what I mentioned earlier, with the programmable part being something that others can access and be able to take smart devices or other networks, even over network APIs or IMS data channels, to be able to access those same capabilities outside of the communications network and outside of what the operator service could be. So it creates a programmable entity for these enterprises and outside channels. So much like hyperscalers today provide compute and store resources as a service, conversational automation is making communications networks more modular and accessible to everyone. So as Gen AI evolves, those conversations will become richer, safer, and more aligned with our individual and business goals.
Okay, so it sounds like that the network is becoming more of like a colleague, we could say, that kind of speaks tech and business fluently.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. Exactly.
Okay, that's great. All right, so why don't we get into architecture? What's needed to actually enable these kinds of interactions between humans, machines, and networks?
So you can think of the architecture as requiring or having three primary functions to accomplish this. First of all, the programmable infrastructure is really more about creating an API enabled environment that allows different functions to be exposed and ready for on demand actions. So they need to be enabled with real responsiveness for real time communications and non real time communications as well. Additionally, you need a data fabric and the context for that data. So the idea is to create an observability function that's not just describes what's happening, but why it's happening, and it informs the network about the actual context of the data that's been stored or occurs into whatever data streams or data lakes or functions that are required to amass the data capabilities. And the key thing is that data is the entire foundation of everything. So its integrity and reliability are paramount in its use. And finally, autonomous decision making, I think, is really the last key function, and that's where AI agents can simulate, recommend, safely execute operations, and with speed and precision. So, implementing these functions within the context of TM Forum's industry standard framework allows us to support interoperability for multi-vendor net environments, and it ensures extensibility overall. Now this approach is foundational as we enter the era of network-to-network communications because domains can then negotiate and coordinate decisions themselves. This enables new valuable business models for across multiple cloud environments and partner ecosystems as well.
Great. Well, so Cody, as we know, handing over decisions to AI does sound a little bit risky. So, how can we govern this? How do telcos entrust in autonomous networks decision making?
That's a very key question and a very important one, Alexa, because like all forms of AI implementations, proper governance is essentially fundamental to ensure that we get the desired results and behavior, and then we have the security of knowing that the decisions that are made are what decisions should be made. And there's several principles to guide that, in addition to the transactional transparency that every AI decision must be traceable and explainable. And the first one is data integrity. As I alluded to earlier, this is essential. It's a garbage in, garbage out effectively is no more clearer now than it ever has ever been as we use AI because everything revolves around the integrity of the data and the cleanliness and the trusted portion of that data. In addition to that, policy management is key. Service providers will need to define boundaries and escalation results, and rule and basically have rollback paths. So it's all about security, security, security. I can't stress that enough because if that's built in and designed in from the very beginning, then everything else will fall in line appropriately to the function that it needs. And then finally, keeping the human in the loop. That design function is really so important because even in a fully autonomous systems, there are checkpoints and points along the way where human interaction is key, and maintaining that as a design principle is essential for building smarter networks and instilling safety and security by design along the way.
Perfect. Thank you, Cody. Now, I want to shift and talk a little bit about real world. So, as you know, we talk about where we want to get to when it comes to programmable networks and autonomous networks. But what are some of the practical ways telcos can start down this road today?
Well, I'd recommend a kind of a crawl, walk, run approach, but still targeting intentional and business-driven use cases. Good examples are closed loop assurance in a single domain, like RAN or transport, to keep it contained and under control, so that it can be managed and rolled out in a way that is not intrusive to ongoing operations of your existing network. And using AI to generate scripts, based on large language models and historic ticket patterns for care use cases is another example, and finally adding natural language interfaces to knock applications, for instance, in a network operations center. It gives you more seamless network interaction and speeds insight discovery. But the real key to creating an autonomous network framework is really designed around the existing tech stack and being able to extend its capability. And there's a lot of sunk cost and investment made there. So adding new AI-based capabilities and automation tooling that is incremental to that value is really important. And so essentially what we're trying to do is build a framework for programmability so that you can enable any particular operational use case. Good example of that is at the DTW Ignite event last June in Copenhagen. Nokia introduced this concept of a hybrid workflow environment. And the idea was to take the existing workflow and enhance it with agentic AI and digital twin capabilities. And what we found was it was extremely effective. It was able to naturally allow the enterprise and the operator to communicate in natural language and be able to get real-time results and be able to completely set up a brand new enterprise service for a major event. In that particular case, it was the Formula One event in Qatar, and it turned out to be something that was established in less than 20 minutes. So very effective use of existing capabilities together with new automation functionality.
Wow, that is really powerful stuff, Cody. This has been a really fascinating deep dive into what's next. Do you have any final thoughts?
I would just say a few things. The success of telecom really is about breaking the cycle of complexity and embracing automation as a fundamental strategy. So it's not just a set of tools, but it's actually a cultural change in the business itself and with the companies that serve those businesses. So it will naturally create, if it's done properly, operational improvements. Um, and when applied strategically, AI can amplify these improvements even more by identifying inefficiencies, automating repetitive human tasks, and enabling more predictive and adaptive network behavior. So ultimately, the business of the CSP is transforming from a telco to a techco. And it's a radical shift that will create a new level of readiness and value of CSPs as they enter the age of the AI supercycle.
Perfectly said, Cody. Thank you for the thoughtful insights. And thank you to everyone who joined us for the Telecom Unplugged series this summer. It's been a great ride exploring real, practical ways autonomous networks is reshaping the telecom industry. If you have any questions about any of the topics that we covered, please do not hesitate to contact us, and we are happy to explore those with you further. Thank you, Cody, and thank you to everyone listening.